I'm ready.
All right.
I don't know who wants to hear me talk, but okay.
No, they all want to hear you
Yeah,
talk.
I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure.
They want to hear me talk. All right, guys, we're back. Also, you can just look at me when we're talking.
Oh, thank you.
So
Okay,
just
good.
we're kind of
all right, we'll go.
yeah.
Gotcha, thanks.
So we're here today with Mrs. Sample. Miss Sample, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Another round of the Tiger Talks here. I'm DJ Stobbe. Third podcast. I like to think I'm getting pretty good at this. I like doing it. Obviously, great guest with Miss Sample. Do you prefer Mrs. Sample or Principal Sample?
Miss Sample's
Miss Sample's
yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
Mrs. Sample has a bachelor's degree from Bellarmine University, master's degree from Indiana Southeast, educational specialist degree from Louisville. She was hired in 1999 as English teacher for Mercy, 19 years at Mercy, and 4 as the assistant principal. And then she served as the principal from 2012 to 2018. Miss Sample then came to St. X, and she's known for her compassion and down-to-earth leading style, but she's also not afraid to flex muscle when needed. Sometimes it's needed with the all-boys school. But there have been 23 principals at St. X, and Miss Sample is the first ever woman principal. Miss Sample, just as kind of a little just getting back to this year, the previous year was COVID. I'm sure that was probably a struggle as your first year as like the principal.
Sure.
Just kind of talk about how that was kind of affected your first year as the principal at St. X.
Yeah, it's I think for any administrator it was challenging, but being new and having a new president was challenging as well, because you want students to trust us and know that we believe in the mission and we believe in what St. X is about, but we were having to deal with keeping kids 6 feet apart in the cafeteria, which we knew takes away from your all's educational experience. I think the hardest part for me, though, was having to make decisions and then having every person in the community, all of our parents, everyone, teachers included, question everything that we did. And I get their confusion on some things, but it's, President Callister and I had to make decisions based on kind of what's best for everyone, and that can be frustrating for people. And I hated the masks too. I don't ever want to go back to masks, and I hear about that new variant and I just want to pass out.
It scares me too.
So,
I know.
So I'm like, no new variant. So yeah, I like seeing your all's faces.
Yeah, that's been my favorite part, is just come back and see everyone's faces. I mean, sometimes I don't even know what the teacher looked like because I've seen him with the mask the whole time.
That's right.
So, but Ms. Sample, sometimes as teachers and just as face value, we know them as a teacher. We don't really get to know them too much outside of St. X.
Yeah.
So kind of just take me through like life before St. X, life before maybe even Mercy as a teacher.
Sure, yeah. It's not super exciting, so I apologize about that. But I went to Mercy. I graduated from Mercy, and then all I wanted to do was coach basketball. Like, that was my goal to do in life. I got a basketball scholarship to Bellarmine, and went and played there for 4 years, and just had the time of my life, And so 4 years at Bellarmine, and trained to be a teacher, and I wanted to go right back to Mercy because I really felt like teenage girls were kind of like where I wanted to go back home, and you probably will feel that way one day too, as a lot of our students do who go away and want to be teachers. They want to come back here. I mean, that's why you guys have so many great teachers who know what St. X is about. So played basketball at Bellarmine, graduated, and then went straight to, I taught 1 year at PRP, waiting for the position at Mercy to open. It opened up, went to Mercy, coached fast pitch, coached basketball, and then just started kind of moving my way up. I was an English teacher, then became assistant principal, and then principal my last 6 years. So I tell you what, we work for the Xavierian brothers now. I worked for the Sisters of Mercy when I was at Mercy, and they are the neatest ladies. Like, they're generally in trouble with the Vatican. So we got that. But they are just women that just believed in, Catherine McCauley, the founder, she said something about how people wouldn't want to give to one poor person because they thought, well, maybe what if that's the poor person who's faking it? And her thing was, what if they're not? And so it was just this a really a grounding experience for young girls to come up in. But then to come here with the Xavierian brothers, and my very first, President Callister and I were here maybe a month, and the brothers invited us over to Reichenhaus for tea or something.
Okay.
And I hadn't accepted the position yet. I was still interim principal. I really didn't want to become principal. I just kind of was just trying to transition us in while somebody else, they found someone else. And then after talking to the brothers, it was just like, I'm like, that's my tribe. Like they're just like the Sisters of Mercy, and it was so empowering, and they were so, because they know they're at the end of the line. You know, I mean, our brothers are going to be gone soon, and so for them to be so trusting of lay people to take on their mission was just incredible for me. So yeah.
The brothers, it's interesting to talk about the brothers, because there's not too many brothers here. I don't think I've had any brothers teacher. I had maybe one in the science lab, brother Mike.
Mike, yes.
And he was awesome.
He
but
misses that so much. So
just kind of their tradition, and like they said, you just felt at home kind of carrying it back. You said your kind of growing up wasn't too exciting. Miss Sample, I mean, I know you don't want to brag about it, but you kind of were a basketball stud. Talk about like the basketball in high school and kind of just like growing up with basketball.
Sure. Well, basketball was my life. Actually, Chris Herron, who we just heard speak, was I remember following him. We're about the same age, and I remember him going through all of his troubles and just kind of just wishing him the best. But, I grew up on like Larry Bird and Pistol Pete Maravich, and Steve Alford had this workout. It was a VHS tape that was very expensive. It was like $40 back, way back then. And that was when the basketball players would wear their little tiny shorts,
short shorts,
but he had this all-star workout, and I just would do it religiously. And it was all the stuff, of like, I used to be able to do it. I probably can't do it right now, but like, dribbling, all those kinds of things. So I would do all those dribbling drills, and I went to every camp. Was looked at by a few schools, but Bellarmine was really where I wanted to go, and I was lucky to get an offer there because that was an expensive school and it was a full ride. So but in high school I also played volleyball, ran cross country, and played softball. So softball is probably my favorite sport. Basketball is intense, and but softball you can just really just have fun, and we were really good at Mercy in the 90s, so it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's interesting that you say softball is your favorite, but I guess you're the best at basketball.
Oh no, I mean I played the 1 and 2 guard. We had lots of good players on our team. So, and at Bellarmine, unfortunately, the first day of practice, my freshman year, 7 minutes into practice, I came to a jump stop, and my ACL exploded. So I remember like going down the lane, and I worked out all summer. I was benching I was ripped because I was ready to show college ball what I could do. And then 7 minutes in, and I just ruptured my ACL and everything else in my knee. And I remember like when it happened, I just remember falling, and my teammates, I saw them all go, oh, like this, and I remember hearing a sound. And I was just so confused, and then the pain kicked in. Yeah. But my college coach was like, get her off the floor, let's keep going. And that's how Coach Just was. He was like, so I had a lot of recovery from that. So I never really got to do as much in college as I wanted to, but, there's only so much you can do with a bum knee. Yeah.
Exactly. And you talk a lot about Mercy. What was your favorite maybe memory, or just kind of something you remember from Mercy going there?
I think that's it's like when people ask me to explain why St. X is so great, and it's just the experience. It's so hard to put it into one word, but it's when Mercy, we moved from downtown on Broadway. Used to be downtown on Broadway, and then we moved to Fagenbush in 2007. And I remember everyone was so worried that our spirit, like we would all change because we were moving to a different end of town, and we just thought like. And it didn't. Like the Spirit of Mercy, it transcended all of that. And that's the same thing with St. X. It doesn't matter where we put this school, it's always going to be St. X. And when we talked to some of the brothers in Bungoma and Kenya, and hearing them, we're going to start really getting our students to connect with them a lot more into the future. And it's amazing to see they're St. X boys,
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to those things. But again, it's hard to answer that question just because it's the people, it's the experience, and it's the same thing here. Like it's hard when parents like, how are you different from another school? And it's like, how much time do you have? Like, where do we start? So yeah.
Yeah, it's not so much maybe about a specific event. It's just kind of the person it shapes you into the experience. Same thing with St. X, yeah. So you talked about you wanted to stay here all your life, come back. What about like Louisville? I'm just interested, like, what about Louisville just made you wanted to stay here or come back?
You know, I'm pretty different now because I think once I leave education, I'll probably leave the state and try something else. But I don't know. I just always felt so homegrown, and I grew up in the South End, and so I was a very proud South Ender, and just always wanted to be faithful and true to where I came from, and so that's kind of what did that. But yeah, that's good enough.
Gotcha. Yeah. Any like family here? Or
I'm
sisters?
sorry. Yeah. I've got a sister. She's 4 years older than I am. My mom and dad are still with me, and they are, just to put it in perspective, like I was their designated driver as a teenager. So I was like kind of that straight-laced kid. I didn't do anything. I was always, and my parents would be like, don't you want to go out to a party? Like,
they're always begging you to go out, huh?
Yeah, and my mom's like, why don't you put on some makeup, and I total opposite of what a lot of parents have to do with their teens. And so, they would say, hey, we're going to go to the Derby. And I'm like, I'll take you and pick you up. So I took them to Vegas a couple years ago. I'd never been to Vegas, and that's their place to go, So they've kind of, and at Mercy, they were always the ones that they would drive to all the games. And I couldn't even get in the car because all of the girls would want to ride with my parents. So I'd have to ride with somebody else because they're just fun, So I'm just blessed and lucky to have two really, really great parents. But personally, I think, I have two boys here, sophomore and a senior. And we have different last names. I divorced about 6 years ago. Their father and I are just great friends. We're amazing co-parents. He's a graduate. He's an 85 graduate from here. And we're just super involved. But I think it's been good for them to have a different name, just because, I think that's worked better for them. But I don't think anybody cares. That's, I don't think anybody cares or thinks that they get any special treatment because I don't think anybody really knows. So, yeah.
And Louisville's a very foodie city. Got a lot of good food.
Yeah.
I'm interested. What's your favorite food, go-to meal, go-to place?
Very good question. I'd have to say sake blue. So I am a hibachi, yes, guru. So so any of those kinds of places I love. But at heart, I'm just always going to be okay for a Big Mac. But no, the hibachi girls are kind of my thing.
Yeah, that's a good family spot, hibachi. And then the Big Mac, I mean, you can't go wrong with the Big Mac.
And pizza, I mean, please. I'm a connoisseur of pizza. I love it. So, yeah. So I'm always eager to try new pizza places, too. Not super classy, and I wish I could say it was something more dignified, but that's what I like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you talked about how you have two great parents.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of wondering, who was like maybe a motivation factor, like a key role model in your life?
Yeah. I would have to say probably, well, there's been a few, but to kind of focus on one would be my teacher, a teacher from Mercy. And just they supported athletics and everything, but this person really taught me to be what it means to be a good human being, and that it doesn't matter what sport you play, it doesn't matter what grades you get, that your objective in life is to really make this world a better place and be a better human being. And but I also was able to do that without social media. And so how your generation has to deal with social media, I mean, if your parents, any of our parents would want to have their entire teenage years put out on social media, like, no.
Yeah.
No, it would be terrible. So, but no, I would say like my teachers at Mercy, actually one of them is Rick Blackwell. He's the president at DeSales now. We were at Mercy together for a long time. He coached me in high school and then taught me at Mercy. And Mike Johnson, not the St. X Mike Johnson, but we had a Mike Johnson at Mercy. He was our president and a great mentor for me. So just always lucky. Sister Priska, just amazing people to be surrounded with.
Yeah, I think a teacher that not only teaches you the material just on face value, but also teaches you life lessons, that's what's going to stick with you beyond the classroom.
Yeah.
For sure.
But also, a teacher has to like have empathy, and a teacher has to understand what it's like to be someone your age and what you're facing. And you know, teachers, I think some teachers, if their kids are stressed out, then they feel like they're doing a good job, and that's not how it has to be. And I think, and I'm not saying that's here, I'm just saying education in general, that's but I think, you know, we've got such great teachers here, and they're all committed to working toward kind of this newer push toward more performance and less memorization and things like that. And they're doing such great work, and it's really exciting. So you're not going to see the, but maybe your son will come back here one day and get to see the fruits of that. But not stressing out the students, not necessarily the best way. Obviously, you want to have the rigor, but also you got to have some fun too. I think it's interesting you say the thing about social media, because that is definitely a factor that there's its benefits and it's also its benefit, or its, you know, negative out kind of side things that it stresses a lot of people out for sure. But having to wait to see how many people like something, and just the way it's had to change and alter the way that you guys have to think about the world. My generation knows nothing about that. Like, it's just, and I don't say this lightly. Like, it is, look at all the data that you guys have to process all day long. I mean, my watch, I just get one thing right after the next, and you guys have all of your platforms, and then you have to worry about, and I see it down in the office, like, kids make dumb decisions when it comes to social media, and it's because they're teenagers. The problem is, it's out there. You know, in my day, I was a teenager, I made a dumb decision, I got corrected, and I could move on. It didn't live in infamy. And I hate that for you all so much. I just know it has to affect how you do everything. Yeah,
it really does affect everything. It's crazy. It just kind of revolves around it all. But kind of changing gears, Miss Sample, you're the first ever woman principal here. And there was a lot of outside pressure and a lot of, when I just looked it up kind of to do my research before, so many articles about how would she handle it, different pressure, different challenges. So I'm just kind of interested, how have you handled it? How different challenges you faced as being the first woman principal at St. X?
Well, I think when I said a little bit earlier that I didn't intend to take the position permanently, I just when I left Mercy, it was being a high school principal. If you do it right and you do it well, it consumes you, and you know, that's what it. Because you are all about those kids, and you're all about those teachers. And so I didn't know if I wanted to get back into that. But then, like I said earlier, after talking to the brothers and working with President Callister, he's just fantastic. And it's just been, I just knew that when the opportunity came and it was offered to me, I had to let them know that I can't be the same way the former principals have been. Like, I am me, and I'm not going to try to change who I am to fit into this mold. And they, President Callister and everyone, was so supportive of that and open to it. I don't think it's like night and day between me and other people, but I do listen to people, and I do think there are gray areas. I don't think everything's black and white. And I think if everything's black and white, then we're really missing something. So taking the position or accepting the position, and just letting them know that I've got to be me, and just the support was amazing. So, but then also being the first female principal, and I just think that's such an honor, and I'm so grateful to be this person. It was hard reading some stuff online. I'll tell you what, some moms are women, sometimes we tend to be harder on other women. And so, you know, I happened to cross some things that some moms had said, and, you know, it just deflated me a little bit. But then I thought, you know what, I'll just be me, all I can do, and show them, and hopefully they'll come around. And
exactly.
And if not, then that's their issue, not my issue. So, because I know all I want for their son is accountability, and for him to be the best human being he can be, and have a great success in life. And so, I think that's kind of been my push. But and I know there were some and I get it, some male, alums who were like, holy cow, why are we doing this? The end of St. X is coming. And then when COVID came and I took ties away, holy cow. Some alums thought that was me changing St. X, like we were going to go away from that. And it's like, no, it's a pandemic. Like, let these guys breathe.
Let them breathe. Exactly.
But we've come back, so I think they're okay with that. But we've got such a great alum base that it's unbelievable. So
it's awesome that you accepted the role based on the fact that you were going to be able to be yourself and not be trying to be the previous people that were in the job. I think that's so key. And you talk about the support you had here. St. X is a great place for support, and they're never going to kind of put you down. The outside noises that you heard, I know that was definitely tough, but the culture you've created at St. X is definitely a new feel. So talk about the culture you've tried to create. I know we've done a lot of new activities this year, and just
I think it's a great question. Let me talk to you about kind of the balance of it, because I know students and teachers and alums, they pride St. X in being a place of accountability and in being a place where we expect more out of our students than other people. So, and I want that. I don't want that to go away. I think having a new dean of students, it's been a transition year. And so St. X is never going to get away from making sure guys tuck in their shirts and tie their ties. And, I've been a little bit lax with the hair just because of COVID, and now it's just stuck. So we do need some seniors who need to get their hair cut.
Okay.
Not you, you're fine. But anyway, it's just one of those things where the culture is everything to a school. And like I tell the seniors, I don't say that as lip service. You guys determine how the school's going to run for the year, and your spirit and your pep, and like you coming to me and wanting to do a talent show and getting that restarted. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we need to be doing. Like, it's okay to take some class time to listen to a speaker like Chris Herron, you know, or to celebrate ourselves as Tiger Blast, was that a great time for you?
Awesome time.
Yeah. And then this year we did it with freshmen and sophomores because the sophomores didn't get to have it. And were you out there with the sophomores?
I wasn't.
Okay. They had the absolute best time of their life. And that's what you remember, you know? We don't have to memorize every fact in the world. Like there's another part of education, and that's brotherhood, and not just saying it but living it. So we'll get better at it. I mean, everything's just kind of new, but as far as accountability goes, St. X will never let go of having high standards, you know, but I want realistic high standards, where we remember that we're in the business of teenagers, and that's a messy business. So when we expect perfection out of teenagers, we might as well get out of the business. Being willing to grow with them and let them make mistakes and own up to it. There's nothing better than when a student makes a mistake and he comes into the office and he owns it. It just changes everything, because that's what you want. And it's pretty rare nowadays. I mean, most kids will have 20 stories and things like that, but occasionally you get the young man who comes in and says, yes, I did it. And you're like, thank you, you know? So, and we'll get others there, but it's a process.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've never been afraid to come to talk to you about anything, just because.
I hope not. Good.
Yeah, and just because you have been in front of us a lot. Some of the sometimes you get here and you don't really know the principal too well. You don't really get to meet him ever. And I think it's key that you preach that you're yourself and that you're willing to talk down and talk to a guy and take some time out of your day. I think it's key. Talk about some of the different activities you brought at St. X. I think it's been, and I've had an extremely fun senior year so far. But just like the bike, the anti-bullying with the bikes, that was an awesome time.
Awesome, yeah. That I think kicking the school year off with a kickoff like we did, I think that's a game changer. Yeah. Because traditionally we come in, you guys go straight to class, you're assigned your homework, and then that whole weekend you're doing homework, you know? And so we really encourage the teachers this year to embrace that back to school or Kiger kickoff with Tendai Charasika speaking, who's just phenomenal. And then to have the video from Justin Thomas was great too. I was really excited he did that. Now I had to cut a line out at the end because he, so I didn't want to start the year off trashing Trinity, but the last thing he said was, it was this great thing, like great St. X, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, and just be glad you're not a Trinity student. Like, so it would have brought the house down, but but I was like, let's not. First of all, like let's focus on us. Yeah. But it's like, that was his experience, and and then I tell you what, the St. X Trinity week, wow, that was a new one for me. And I think the rivalry is great, and some of the things guys do are hilarious. Like the cameo things were like that's such a funny idea. Such a Chris Hansen, like those are but and the other guy was way over the top, but it's kind of like I want students to do fun things like that without causing harm or
without
hurting
going
other
over the
people.
edge,
And St. X Trinity Week sure does teach me that this rivalry is real.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And alive. So but yeah, it was a long week. Yeah. So, but like the pep rallies and things like that, the Tiger tunnels. I don't think we should have one pep rally a year. I think the excellence rally kind of ran its course. Getting together for 2 hours and just kind of cheering on, and then watching faculty do skits and things, it can get old and awkward. So we outgrew it. So it was like, let's move on. But I think getting you guys together and having pep rallies that you all plan, and I think the one like you guys did for the St. X Trinity, I mean, that was fantastic. I mean, seniors just really kicked tail with that. So, but Tiger Tunnel, I think, has been something that I've tried to tell people around here, you have no idea, like other schools don't have this many state championships, and so some schools just hope for one state championship every 5 to 10 years. And we can't take those for granted because those young men work so hard. So I think, but not just them, but like also our drama students and our musicians. And I just feel like we had to have something that was simple and wouldn't take away too much class time to really just give them a moment and celebrate their accomplishments. But again, it's not just athletics. I mean, our national merit guys, we have a lot to celebrate, and we should. And I think St. X is just so used to all of that stuff that they were just like, oh my God, another state championship. And I'm like, no, it's another state championship. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll give a quick shout out to the senior class. I think the senior class has been awesome. Like you said, the spirit and just the different, I mean, it's been awesome. I think different activities that the seniors have organized. I think it's been an awesome senior class to be a part of, and it's been really fun. So.
It's really been, I'm just so lucky that I had you guys this year. Transitioning in and with out of COVID and stuff, it's just, I could not have asked for better leaders. And I knew from the get-go you guys were going to nail this, and you have. And I think that's why I'm going to be so hard on the freshmen and the sophomores. We've got to get them to being you guys, and we're not going to do that if we're having a national speaker correct us. Or things like that. So, but we'll get them there because it's St. X, and they're St. X men, and we'll get them there. So it might just be a little more work.
Exactly.
But they're great kids. They just need to get back into the school system. I think that academic atrophy. I mean, it's hard to go from being in your room all day in classes and then coming here.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So we're trying to be understanding of that as well, but. Only so far. So.
And you talk about the leadership too. I'm kind of interested to kind of hear, what is your leadership style? And like we talked about the different culture you created. How are you like, how do you like get your point across and just kind of be a leader onto others?
Yeah. I've studied, like I've read every leadership book you can read, and I've tried to emulate like these amazing people, but I think ultimately you are who you are. And for me, my leadership style is by example. If I have the teachers doing something, I want to be doing it as well. If teachers are out doing service, I'm out there with them. If I'm expecting the kids to do things, I need to be willing to do that as well. And to me, that's everything. Because if I just sit in my office and no one sees me, or I'm always right and no one can correct me, I've never made a mistake, then holy cow, that's the worst kind of principle. So for me, it is just, I think that empathy piece of trying to, like, I want to understand where you are right now. I want to experience it. I want to help you. Is probably more than anything. It gets me in trouble sometimes because, you know, sometimes when I've got to be tough and it's really hard because you just want to hug the kid and just be like, it's okay, but you know you got to be like, no. So those are things that are a little bit challenging for me. But I think the other part of the leadership is just common sense. Like, leadership's not brain surgery, and people just need to feel appreciated, valued, loved, and then they'll do what they know needs to be done. And so, but also being able to admit when you're wrong. Like, I have no problem doing that. And I think that's kind of a no-no in leadership sometimes. You know, they're like, just kind of bury it and then pretend you, no. If like, I just actually talked to a parent today and I was like, you know what? I don't think that makes sense. Let's look through that again. So, you know, I've tried to emulate all kinds of the best leaders out there. But ultimately I just am who I am, and you're stuck with me for right now. So sorry. I think we're good. I think we're good with being stuck with you, Miss Sam.
But you've been at St. X since 2018, assistant principal. What have you learned from your time at St. X, and like just maybe some key takeaways?
Yeah, so I've had I've worked with a lot of college professors over the years, especially learning kind of what they want from students when students get to college. And that's really designed all of the curriculum stuff that I try to do and get teachers and how we change the way we teach. Because as I tell people all the time, college professors don't care how much knowledge you have. I mean, how many facts you know, excuse me. They don't need Jeopardy champions. They need DJ to walk in that room the first day and be able to solve a problem, fail at something, figure it out, and you know what I mean? And so those are the types of academics we need to be creating. And but I'm sorry, back to the college professor thing. I think it's, what was the original question again? I'm sorry.
Just your key takeaway, something you've learned from St. X.
Sorry. Yeah. Is a couple colleges asked me to come speak because they heard that I was in an all-girls school and that I moved to an all-boys school. So they wanted me to talk to their psychology classes about the difference between, and yes, there are differences between males and females. And I will tell you this. Males can spread a rumor faster than any female I've ever seen. so
that is yes, very interesting.
I know. My first year here in my junior class, they were like, "Aren't you glad you don't have all the crying and stuff?" And I'm like, "The girls don't cry all the time." Yeah. And then I was like, "You all can spread a rumor faster than anybody I've ever seen." So, but my main thing is when I would talk to these college classrooms is, people are people, and yes, there's some differences from genders. There's kind of ways you want to approach a girl that you wouldn't approach a boy. Like a girl, I can shame her into doing things. Like I would just be like, I stayed up all night, and she'll be like, "Okay, Miss Sable, I'll do it." And then I try that here, and they're like, "So?" You know, so that was a new one for me. But ultimately, what I tell all these psychology people is that teenagers are teenagers, kids are kids, and they all need the same basic things. And that is for somebody to believe in them, somebody to care about them, and somebody to give them a chance. But also somebody who lets them fail and picks them back up and helps them. And it doesn't matter what gender you are, you know? So that's always kind of been my big thing, because people always ask me that question, and it's just, man, I just treat, like, you get it. Like people are teenagers are teenagers.
Exactly.
And you know, as long as we're taking care of those basic core needs, everything else is going to take care of itself. Yeah.
It's some interesting insight about the different Mercy, and then you come to the all boys school at St. X. I think it's kind of interesting to just kind of pick your brain about the different things you've dealt with. So
I'm so glad I don't have to like look at skirt length anymore. That was my the bane of my existence, was the skirt length.
The skirt length,
yes.
Okay.
So, and that's when I started here, and they're like, he doesn't have his shirt tail tucked in, and that guy's got, you know, I was with Mr. Jury, you know, and he's like, and that guy needs a haircut, and I'm like, that's it? Like, you don't have to worry about skirts, so you shouldn't complain about anything, you know. So, yeah, that was one thing I was glad to be finished with, so. Yeah.
Okay.
Girls aren't always like, yeah. And then when they fix it, they'll roll it up after you leave.
Okay, yeah, they'll
So
just put it right back up. Yeah.
Yeah, there's,
Mhm.
yeah. So, but anyway.
So this is kind of the last little segment here.
Sure.
I asked you to, do some name drops, Mrs.
Yeah.
Sample, just about guys who have made an impact on St. X recently, whether it's academics, whether it's athletics, whether it's just something small you saw in the hallway, just
Yeah.
name drop.
I think, I thought about this question a long time, and I think there are so many amazing young men in this school. And, as I've shared with your family and you and how proud I am of the things that you've kind of pushed for and said, we need this. And it may not be perfect this year for me, but I want to get it going for the future. And I think when you have students like that, that's a game changer. But I think we have some unsung heroes in that senior class who, some guys that I taught as freshmen. I think Carter Shad is one of the funniest kids I've ever met.
Okay.
And sat with him at the mother-son last night. And Danny Miller is just a great young man, very quiet, and I don't think enough people know him. I remember as a freshman, he came up to me and he said, "Do you want to see a video of a lizard squirting blood out of its eye?" And I said, "I don't think so, Danny."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Okay," and he hit play, and sure enough, this lizard shot blood out of its eye. And but these are just like McLean Watson, Jesse Cartagena, Porter Goman, that guy is amazing, Jacob Souter, Ruben, Dre Maxwell, Jet Ski, who doesn't go by Jet Ski, right? Mr. Logan, that's right.
Gotta call him Logan, yes.
But
yes.
It just, those young men who have really, students who aren't always they're not going to win a state championship, they're not going to have a name put up on the wall, but they make us who we are. And I think sometimes kind of touting those unsung heroes is really important, because everybody else is covered with social media and everything else, and I'll send notes all the time. I'm very appreciative of everything our students do. But I just kind of thought those are some young people that deserve some shout outs, so
All right.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Miss Sample, thank you for coming on,
Yeah.
being a part of the podcast. Really appreciate you taking the time out and doing it.
I can't imagine anyone has made it this far. So
I don't know.
Unless they're excited to hear you.
Yes. No, they're excited. They're excited
sure.
to hear you
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, thanks for coming on. If you want to see more content from Xavier News, go ahead and follow us on Instagram, STX_Xavier News, and on Twitter, STX_News.
Got
It's
it.
been DJ and Mrs. Sample.
Thank
We're
you
out.
so much. Bye.